Hello, and welcome to this video on the Level 2 Functional Skills Maths mock paper. And we're looking at section 1 first, which in the exam you have a duration of 25 minutes, unless you have exam arrangements, in which case you get slightly more time. And the total marks available are 15. Calculators are not permitted in this section, and there's some advice on the front of the paper. So we're looking at the actual front of an exam paper in our mocks. So as you can see, you've got the candidate's details, and when you look further down on the paper, there's some guidance and advice. So it states you should have the following pieces of equipment for this assessment. So if you haven't, they'll be there in the exam waiting for you. So that's a pen with black or blue ink, a pencil, a rubber, and a 30-centimeter ruler. You must not use a calculator in this particular section. And then the general instructions are that you should read through each question carefully, write all your answers in this booklet because the working out is worth marks, check your calculations, and check that your answers make sense. Let's start with section 1 then, where no calculator is permitted, and there are 15 marks available. So question 1 is checking our understanding of BIDMAS. So are there any brackets? Yes. So we need to do what's inside the brackets first. Now, there are no indices inside the brackets, so we do division and multiplication first. So inside the brackets, we end up with 6 plus 3 times 4, which is 12. Next, we still have to do what's inside the brackets. We've still got our brackets, so 6 plus 12 is 18. Now we've done our addition and subtraction that was inside the brackets, we can remove our brackets. So what we're really looking at is a question that's asking us to do 18 squared. And it's not something we know off the top of our heads. So it turns into a way of multiplying two two-digit numbers, because 18 squared means 18 times 18. So let's do that quickly and easily. And you end up with 324 on the answer line for 1 mark. Question 2 is a subtraction. So we have 4.293 and we're going to subtract 3.947. So we set it up using our column method and then go from right to left. 7 from 3 doesn't go, so we need to borrow 1. 7 from 13 is 6. 4 from 8 is 4, and 9 from 2 doesn't go, so we borrow 1. 9 from 12 is 3. We have our decimal point, and 3 from 3 is 0. So on our answer line, we need 0.346, and that is worth 1 mark. Write 36 as a fraction of 60 and give your answer in its simplest form. So we've got 36 as a fraction of 60, and we know that they both divide by 6 because I know my 6 times tables. So we end up with 6 over 10. I can see that they're both even, so they must divide by 2. So I end up with 3/5 as my fraction in its simplest form. So 3/5 on the answer line for 1 mark. Question 4 is a percentage of an amount, and it's the non-calculator paper, so we use our 10% rule. So 10% of 300 is 30. So if 10% is 30, 5% must be 15, and 1%, move the decimal point one more place, is 3. So this is all the information we need to find our 27%. So if 10% is 30, 20% must be 60. We've got our 5% value, which is 15. And then if 1% is 3, then 2% must be 6. So our 25 and 2 gives us our 27%. Add them together, and we get 81 as the answer. So on the answer line, for 1 mark, 81. Question 5 is a substitution into a formula. So calculate the value of AB squared when A is 2 and B is 3. So write it out in full, and then understand that you have to do big maths with the numbers once we've swapped them. So A is 2 and B is 3. So the next thing to do is square the number. So it becomes 2 times 9, which is 18. So on the answer line, for 1 mark, you've got 18. Question 6 is asking us to write the following numbers in ascending order. So we know ascending means low to high, because we know descending goes from high to low. Now, they're all in different formats, so all we need to choose is the same format for all of them. Now, because we've got 50 and 5 as denominators, percentages look to be the easiest thing to do. So if we turn them all into percentages, we can compare like with like. So to turn a fraction into a percentage, we just need a denominator of 100 by multiplying the 50 by 2. What we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So 22 over 100 gives us 22% for our 11 over 50. 1/5, again, we want to put over 100, and we've multiplied it by 20. So 5 times 20 gives us 100. 5 times 1 times 20 gives us 20, which is 20% for our 1/5. Finally, to turn our 0.17 into a percentage, we just need to multiply it by 100. So we end up with 17% for our 0.17. So we have to find our lowest first, which is our 17%. Don't forget to write down the original format, 0.17. Our next lowest is the 20%, which is 1/5. Our next lowest is our 22%, which is 11 over 50. And then finally, our biggest number is our 25%. And that correct order is worth 1 mark. Question 7. The scale of a map is 1 in 3 million. So don't forget what this means, centimeters to centimeters, 1 to 3 million. The distance between 2 points on the map is 4 centimeters. What's the actual distance between these 2 decimal points? So if we put the 4 on this side, we've multiplied by 4. We do the same on the other side, so 3 4s are 12, and then we just put in all of the zeros. We've got 12 million centimeters. Now, it's given us kilometers as our units, so we have to turn our centimeters into meters and then kilometers. So to go from centimeters to meters, so small to big, we divide, centi meaning 100. So if we divide this number by 100, we end up with 120,000 meters. To get from meters to kilometers, again we divide, but this time by 1,000. The meaning of kilo is 1,000. So 10, 100, 1,000 leaves us with 120 kilometers. So on your answer line, 120 kilometers is worth 1 mark. Question 8. Work out 5.551 divided by 0.07. Now, the rule for dividing decimals is you turn the number doing the dividing into a whole number by moving the decimal point. Whatever you do to this side, you do to the other side to keep the answer equivalent. So it becomes 551.1 divided by 7. That's the maths we've got to do to get our answer. So 7 is going into 555.1. 7 doesn't go into 5, carry the 5. 7 goes into 55. Well, 7 7s are 49 and 7 8s are 56. So it goes in 7 times with a remainder of 6. 7 goes into 65 9 times, which is 63, remainder 2. And 7 goes into 21 3 times. So on the answer line, 79.3 is worth 1 mark. Remember, we don't have to change our answer because of this equivalence we used when we were setting up our division. Question 9. Calculate the surface area of a sphere with a radius of 7 centimeters using pi as 22/7. And it's given us the formula here. So the surface area is equal to 4 times. Now they've given us pi as a fraction. So it's 22/7 and we leave it as a fraction. We don't swap it for 3.14 times the radius, which is 7. Now it's 7 squared, and we've always said when we work with fractions, we write that square number out in full because 7 squared means 7 times 7. Now, to make this easier, what we can do is don't do that. Do this, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. So it doesn't make any difference to our calculation. And it makes the calculation quite straightforward. 4 times 22 is 88. And then we've got times 1, which doesn't do anything, times 7. So now it just turns into a 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication. So 88 times 7, or 7 eighths are 56 with a 0, and 7 eighths are 56. So 560 plus the 56 gives us 616. So our answer is 616. Because its surface area is going to be centimeters squared as the unit. So 616 centimeters squared for 1 mark. Question 10 is asking us to add mixed numbers. So what we can do is we can add the 2 and the 3 to get 5. Now we've got 3/5 and we need to add it to 7/10. So we need to use equivalents so that they have the same denominator. So we don't have to do anything to the 7/10, but to the 3/5 we need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. So we have 6/10 plus 7/10, which is 13/10. Now if we turn this back into a mixed number, we have one whole number and 3/10 left over. So 10 divides into 13 once with a remainder of 3, and we have the 3/10. We need to add the whole number 5 that we worked out earlier. So 5 plus 1 is 6. So our whole number is 6, and the fraction part of our number is 3/10. And that's worth 1 mark. Question 11. Work out the median of the following numbers. So median means middle of a sorted set of data. So the first thing we need to do is sort our information into numerical order. And then once it's sorted, we then find the middle. So we can cancel the outside and then one side and then the other. We can cancel each end, then cancel each end, and lo and behold, we have 2 numbers in the middle of our set because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of information. So what we need to do there is add the 3.8 and the 3.2. So we've got 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So our answer on the answer line is 3.5, and that's worth 1 mark. Question 12. The probability of arriving at a set of traffic lights when they are red is 1/3. What is the probability of arriving at 2 sets of lights when they're both on red? So this is an AND question. So 1/3 for the first probability and means multiply 1/3 on the second probability. So 1 times 1 is 1 and 3 times 3 is 9. So we have 1/9 for our probability. That's worth 1 mark. Question 13 wants us to calculate the value of the angle x in this triangle. We have an equilateral triangle because of these annotations here. They're saying this side is the same length as this side. And when we have an equilateral triangle, if this angle is 23, this angle here must be 23 degrees. So the 2 angles that we have add up to 46 degrees. So in order to find x, we have to take 180, which we know are the angles inside a triangle, take away the 2 angles that we know. So we've got 180, take away 46, and we end up with 134 degrees. So on the answer line, 134 degrees, and that is worth 1 mark. Question 14. Calculate the mean of the following temperatures. So here we have a mixture of positive and negative numbers. So the way to do this question is just think of it as your number line and going left or right depending on whether they are positive or negative numbers. So if you start off at -2 and you go 14 in the positive direction, you end up at positive 12. If you then go 8 in a negative direction, you end up at positive 4. Then you're going to go in the positive direction 6, so you end up at 10. Then once you're at 10, you're going to go 4 in the positive direction again, which is 14. Then 4, then 19 in the positive direction is 33. And then 5 in a negative direction that takes you to 28. So our total after adding all of those numbers together is 28. And then what you've got to do is divide it by the number of numbers to calculate our mean. So there are 7 numbers, so 28 divided by 7. I know my times tables is 4. So our answer on the answer line is 4, and don't forget the units, degrees C, and that's worth 1 mark. Question 15. Zoe and Sam are comparing how much sand they have. Sam has got 7.035 kilograms. Zoe has 5,298 grams and 2,052 grams. Who has the most sand? So this question comes down to adding Zoe's sand together and then comparing like with Sam. So we either work in kilograms or grams. So let's work in grams and just add Zoe's two amounts together. So Zoe has 7,350 grams of sand. Sam, if we turn these kilograms into grams, which is multiplied by 1,000 because we're going big to small, kilo to the gram, we get 7,035 grams for Sam and 7,350 grams for Zoe. So who has the most sand? Zoe. And if you want to, you can say how much she's got, 7,350 grams. And that's 1 mark. And that is the end of section 1.
Now let's look at section 2, where we can use our calculator. There are 45 marks available and you have 1 hour 20 minutes to complete this section. Let's start with question 1. Convert 7.6 miles into kilometres where 5 miles is 8 kilometres. So straight away we've got our strapline of miles to kilometres and we have 5 miles is 8 kilometres. The 7.6 miles goes under the miles side, so 7.6 under this side, and all we need to work out is the scale on how do we get from 5 to 7.6. So just divide the bottom number by the top number and use your calculator for this. Don't take any chances. 7.6 divided by 5 equals SD button 1.52. So we've multiplied this side by 1.52. What we need to do over here is multiply it by 1.52 to find our answer. And that's 12.16. Now they haven't asked us to round it or do anything to it, so just put 12.16. Don't forget the units are kilometres on the answer line. And that's worth 1 mark. Question 2. The swimming team were deciding who to add to their team. They had Sarah and Jenny to choose from. Using the information below regarding their 100-metre swims, decide who you would choose and explain why. So we've got the mean for Sarah as 65 seconds. Jenny, well, if we compare like with like, 1 minute is 60 seconds plus a 6, so she's got a mean of 66 seconds. Personally, I would go for Jenny because she has the least range, so she is the more consistent swimmer and she's only 1 second behind on her mean. So I would decide I would choose Jenny, and this is as the means are nearly the same. But she is more consistent. And in brackets, she has a lower range. And that's worth 1 mark. Now don't get me wrong, you could go for Sarah if you wanted to, where she has a lower mean by 1 second, and that would also get you 1 mark. Question 3. Sally is on holiday in Spain. She sees a book costing 27.48 euros. The exchange rate is £1 is 1.2 euros. How much would it cost in England? So again, you've been given a strapline. You have an exchange rate of pounds to euros. So we have £1 is 1.2 euros, and we've been given something in euros. So it goes on the euros side of our strapline. Just like question 1, to find the scale, to find out what 1.2 has been multiplied by, what we need to do is divide 27.48 by 1.2. And we do this on our calculator. So our scale is 22.9. So do the same on the other side, 22.9, and we end up with 22.9 as our answer. Now don't forget there are 2 decimal places with the money, so on the answer line, 22.90, and the 0 is very important for that 1 mark that you'll get for this answer. Question 3b, use approximations to check your answer. So we've got 27.48 in euros, so we call it 30. We divide it by 1, which we got 30. So anything along these lines where you're dividing 30 by 1, giving you 30 as approximation, will get you the 1 mark. Question 4. There are 8 red balls and 4 green balls in a bag. What is the probability of picking out a green ball from the bag? So the total number of balls, so don't forget probability is what we want by the total. So the total number of balls, 8 plus 4 is 12. So 12 is the denominator. And what do we want? It's the number of green balls, so it's 4 over 12. Don't forget to simplify it. Now you can do this on your calculator in this paper if you want to. So just put the fraction in that you want to simplify, so 4 over 12, press equals, and the calculator will do it for you, and that's 1/3. So on the answer line, 1/3. Question 5. What is 4/9 of 36? Well, just put it down mathematically. 4/9 of 36. This is a calculator paper. You don't have to use the manual method of don't do that, do this. All we need to do is put it in our calculator. And we get 16. So on the answer line, don't forget it's money, they're the units. So 16 for 2 marks, £16 for 2 marks. Question 6. The diagram represents a solid made from 5 identical cubes. On the grid, draw the view of the solid from direction A. So we're looking at it in this direction, so we can see this, this, and this across the bottom, and on the left hand side we've got one above it. So we need 3 squares across the bottom, and then 1 above on the left hand side. So that's worth 1 mark. Question 7. The table gives distances in miles by road between some towns. Write down the distance between Reading and Guildford. So we go down from Reading and across from Guildford, and we end up at 28. So 28, don't forget the units, are miles, and that is worth 1 mark.
Question 8.
Calculate the volume of a cone with a radius of 7 centimetres and a height of 3 centimetres. And they've given us the formula here. So all we need to do is substitution and write it out in full. So it's 1/3 times pi, so we use 3.14, times the radius, which is 7 centimetres. Don't forget to square it, it's got an index, so square it, times the height, which is 3 centimetres. Now, it's a calculator paper, there's no reason why you can't stick that into your calculator all in one go. Press the SD button and we get 153.86. The units are going to be centimetres, its volume, so it's going to be cubed. So on the answer line, 153.86 centimetres cubed. It hasn't asked us to round it, so we leave it exactly with what the calculator showed us. Question 9. Nate was deciding where to put his sofa in the lounge. His lounge is a rectangle of 6 metres by 8 metres. The base of the sofa is a rectangle 3.5 metres by 1 metre, and he wants to place the sofa in a corner of the room, but he must be 50 centimetres away from all the walls. On the grid, draw a scale diagram of the room and the sofa meeting the above criteria. So looking at our paper, we need to decide a decent scale. So the longest dimension we have is the room, which is the 8 metres. So we seem to have more across the top. So let's just choose a nice simple scale for us and say, well, if this is 1 metre, so that's going to be our scale. We've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we can't double it, we wouldn't have enough room. So I would suggest your scale is as shown here, where 1 metre is 5 of these little squares. So let's draw the room dimensions now. So this is the outside of our room, where we've got 8 metres across the top, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 squares, and then down the side our second dimension, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares down. Now, he wants to place the sofa in the corner of the room, so we're going to stick it in a corner, but it must be 50 centimetres away from the walls. So we know that we've got a relationship between metres and squares, and we know 5 squares is 1 metre. So we want half a metre for our gap, so we've multiplied this by a half, we multiply this by a half, and we get 2.5 squares. So if we go for the top right hand corner, we've got to count 2.5 squares down and 2.5 squares in. So we can't go closer than that to the wall with our settee. So now let's do the dimensions of the settee. It's 1 metre deep. So let's do the 1 metre deep for now. And that's 5 little squares. Okay, very approximate on my diagram here. And then the other dimension for the settee is 3.5 metres. So if you're not at all sure how many squares that is, use your strap line. You're going to 3.5 meters, so you've multiplied by 3.5. So 5 times 3.5 is 17.5 squares. So we're going to go across 17.5 squares from our corner of our settee. There we go. And now we can draw in the rest of our settee. So don't forget to label everything. So this is the sofa, this is 3.5 meters, and this is 1 meter. And we've got our 1/2 meter gaps on the back and the side of the sofa, so it's in the corner. And all of this work is worth 3 marks. Question 10. The table shows some information about the annual pay of some workers in a factory. Calculate an estimate for the mean annual salary of these workers. So because we've got a table and we have a range of values in the left-hand column, we need to pick the mid value. So we need 12,000 for our first one, 15,000 for our second, 17,000 for our third, 19,000 for the fourth, and 30,000 for the fifth value. Now all we do is we take those mid values and we multiply them by the frequency, in other words the number of workers. So take no chances, use your calculator for all of these. Now in order to calculate the mean, we need the totals, the sums, for the number of workers and the amount that those workers have earned. So there are 80 workers. Who earn a total of £1,190,000. So to get our mean wage, we take our total, £1,190,000, and we divide it by 80, again on our calculator. So our mean wage is £14,875, and that question is worth 3 marks. Question 11. A silver chain has a volume of 5 centimeters cubed. The density of silver is 10.5 grams per centimeter cubed. So it's given us a strap line of grams per centimeter cubed, and we know there's 10.5 grams for every 1 centimeter cubed. It's given us 5 centimeters cubed, so it goes on the right hand side of our strap line, and we've multiplied it by 5. Do the same on the other side. So 10.5 times 5 on your calculator. You get 52.5 grams. So the mass of the silver chain is 52.5. Don't forget the units are grams. Question 12. A can of drink is in the shape of a cylinder. The can has a radius of 4 centimeters and a height of 15 centimeters. Calculate the volume of the cylinder and give your answer to 2 decimal places. So don't forget, this is one of those questions where you have to remember the formula. So the area of our circle at the top is pi r squared. So pi is 3.14, our radius is 4 centimeters, and we need to square it. So let's do that on our calculator. So that's 50.24, and it's the area of the top, so that's centimetres squared. So all we need for our volume is then to multiply it by the depth. So 50.24 times the 15 centimetre height gives us 753.6 centimetres cubed. So on the answer line, 753.6 centimetres cubed. And that's worth 2 marks. Question 13. Andy travels by car to his meetings and is paid 32 pence per mile he drives. One day, Andy records the following distance readings from his car. So at the start of the day he had 2,581 and at the end of the day 2,658. How much is Andy paid for his day's travel? Give your answer in pounds. So if we take the end of the day amount, 2,658, and take away the start of the day amount, it will tell us how many miles he's driven. So he's driven 77 miles. So 77 times his rate, which is 32 pence a mile, is 2,464. Don't forget this is in pence, so divide by 100 to turn it into pounds. He's paid £24.64. And this question is worth 3 marks. Question 14. In a sale, normal prices were reduced by 15%. The sale price of a phone is £102. What is the normal price of the phone? So this is a reverse percentage. So we had an amount we started with, we reduced it by 15%, and it gives us our new value of £102. So if we add 100 and take away 15, then the value that we've got, this here, is our 85% value. So we've multiplied by 0.85. So all we need to do to find out the original price is divide 102 by 0.85. So let's do that on our calculator. 102 divided by 0.85 is 120. So the original price was £120. And that's worth 2 marks. Question 15. Here is a diagram of John's garden. He wants to cover his garden with grass seed. Grass seed is sold in bags. There is enough grass seed in each bag to cover 20 metres squared. Each bag of grass seed costs £4.99. Work out the least cost of covering John's garden with grass seed. So the first thing we need to do is work out the area so we know how many bags we need. So divide it up into our simple shapes. So we have 12 metres by 9 metres for our rectangle. So 12 nines is 108 metres squared for our rectangle. What we need to do now is work out the area of our triangle here. So the height of the triangle is 9 metres, and then the base of the triangle from here to here, 18, take away the 12, leaves 6 metres. So 9 times 6 is 54 metres squared, and we divide it by 2 because it's a triangle, because the 9 by 6 gives us this rectangle, so we need to divide by 2. Take no chances if you're unsure, so divide 54 by 2, and you get 27 metres squared. So the area of grass is 108 plus 27, which is 135 metres squared of grass. So to work out how many bags we need, it's the area divided by 20, which is 6.75 bags. You can't go to B&Q and buy 6.7 bags, so rounded up equals 7 bags needed. So to calculate the cost, £4.99 times the 7 bags, £34.93. So on the answer line, £34.93, and all of that working out is worth 4 marks. Question 16. Two shops have special offers on the same t-shirts. They are normally £12 in both shops. Shop A says pay for 2 t-shirts and get 1 free, or pay for 5 t-shirts and get 3 free. Shop B says 1/3 off the normal price of the t-shirts. Stephen wants to buy 30 t-shirts. Which shop will Stephen get the better deal? You must show clearly your calculations. So let's look at Shop A. If we do the 5 t-shirts with 3 free, because that looks like the best deal, we get 8 t-shirts. So we can do 3 lots of this. So 3 lots of this deal here gives us 24 shirts. So we need 6 more shirts. So buy 2, get 1 free means we can have 2 lots of the second deal, and that gives us our 30 t-shirts. So for Shop A, we are going to pay for 3 lots of 5 t-shirts. So that's 15 t-shirts we're going to pay for, plus 2 lots of 2 t-shirts, which is a total of 19 t-shirts we need to buy to get our 30 t-shirts. So 19 times 12 gives us a price of £228 for Shop A. Now let's look at Shop B. We've got £12 per t-shirt and we want 30 t-shirts. So that gives us a total of £360. Now we've got 1/3 off, so we calculate our 1/3 amount. Do this on your calculator. So that's a discount of £120. So the cost from Shop B is £240. So which shop will give Stephen the better deal? Shop A. And you can actually work out, if you wanted to, how much he saves. So Shop A is £12 cheaper. And all that working out with the correct answer is worth 3 marks. Question 17. The scatter graph shows the distance from the city centre and the monthly rent for 10 apartments in the city. And here we have our scatter graph showing the monthly rent and the distance from the city going across the bottom. And we've got some of the data plotted. For part A, plot the information from the table in the scatter graph for the 2 other apartments. So it wants to know if we can plot information onto our scatter graph. So we have a distance of 2 kilometers, so we're going to go to the 2, and it's a monthly rent of 250. So we go up to 200, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we put a cross at that point. For the second point, we've got 3.1 kilometers as our distance, so 3.1 is here, and we go up until we hit 190. So 200 is there, 190 is there. So that's our second point. So these 2 marks on your diagram are worth 1 mark. Describe the relationship shown in the scatter diagram. So I can see it goes from the top left here down to the bottom right. So the relationship is negative correlation. And you need the word correlation. So not just negative, but negative correlation. Now part C for 2 marks wants us to draw a line of best fit on the scatter graph and then estimate the monthly rent for a different apartment that is 2.8 kilometers from the city centre. So back to the diagram, let's draw our line of best fit. So very roughly that's my line of best fit, remembering they'll be different for all of us, so your answers will differ very slightly as well. So now what we want to do is work out the cost of an apartment 2.8 kilometers from the city centre. So now we need to show our working out by drawing the lines up to our line of best fit. So from the diagram, we can see it's roughly £220. So back to our question. In part C, draw the line of best fit. We've done, that's 1 mark, and then estimate the cost of the apartment at 2.8 kilometres, £220. Now remember, this will differ for all of us depending on our lines for best fit. So anything between £200 and £250 would be acceptable as an answer. Question 18. The diagram shows 2 fish tanks. Which one would hold the most water and by how much? You must show all of your calculations. Now, you have to notice that when you calculate the volume, you need the same units. So we have 2 units on tank A in centimetres, so we need to convert 0.95 of a metre into centimetres. So multiply it by 100 and you have 95 centimetres. So the volume for tank A is 35 times 30 times 95, and that's really quite important. So that's 99,750 centimetres cubed for the volume of tank A. Now let's do the volume of tank B. Again, we have 2 of the units in centimetres, so we need to convert this third dimension into the same units by multiplying it by 100. So that gives us 65 centimetres. So for tank B, we have 45 times 35 times 65, and that will give us our answer again in centimetres cubed. So that's 102,375 centimetres cubed. So our biggest tank, so the question is which one would hold the most water and by how much. We now have to do a subtraction. We have 102,375, take away the 99,750, so tank B holds more, and it actually holds 2,625 centimetres cubed more. And that's worth 3 marks. Question 19. Annette and Jackie share some money in the ratio 2 to 5. So that's going to be Annette and Jackie. Jackie gets £45. How much does Annette get? So we have Annette and Jackie, 2 to 5, and we're told what Jackie gets. So the 45 lives under Jackie. To work out our scale, we divide 45 by 5 and we get 9. Do the same on the other side, multiply Annette's by 9 and we get £18. So Annette gets £18, and this is worth 2 marks. Question 20. Derek puts £400 into a savings account that pays 0.5% compound interest. How much interest would he have after 2 years. So we have £400 at the start, and at the end of year 1 we will have 0.5% more. So 0.5% of 400 gives us, don't forget the percentage button on the left hand bracket here, of the 400. So it's quite literally 0.5% of the £400 gives us our interest of £2. So the answer is 2. So we have £2 interest giving us £402 at the end of year 1. So at the start of year 2 there's £402 in the account, so we need to work out 0.5% of £402. Again, use your calculator for this. So in the second year there is £2.01 interest, and when we add it, so the end of year 2, we end up with £404.01. Now the question says how much interest will there be gained after 2 years. So we're only interested in the interest. So it's £4.01 on the answer line, and that's worth 2 marks. And that's the end of section B and the end of the mock level 2 paper. I hope this video has been of some use. Thank you for watching.